Hola, you are listening to First Gen Healing, a podcast on Latinx healing and awakening journeys. My name is Priscila Luna. I am your host, and I'm going to let today's guest introduce herself. Mujer, let us into your world.
Well, hi, I'm very happy to be here. My name is Gabriela Teran. I am originally from Bolivia, but I now live in Maryland, the DC metropolitan area. I've been in the US for 17 years, so I've been here a while.
Yeah.
Professionally, I'm a brand and web designer. I have my own studio.
So, first, I would love to dig in a little bit into you being here for 17 years. So, can you take us back maybe to whatever point you feel comfortable of your journey, whether it's here or prior to coming here?
I feel like I got here at like a very pivotal time. I was 13 when I got here.
Mm.
So I had already, developed friendships and connections back home. I still actually have some friends from back when I went to school there. So when I go back
Wow.
home, I get to reconnect, which is great.
Yeah.
It was a culture shock for sure when we got here. Back home, we weren't rich, but we were pretty okay. My
Okay.
parents were both worked in higher education. My stepdad was a dean, and my mom was a professor. So
Mm.
they both biochemists. So
Wow.
it was really nice.
Yeah.
So when we got here, like I feel like maybe typical immigrant story, you get here and you start new, nobody knows who you are, no matter what you did back home.
Yeah.
So
Start.
I think that that really shaped a lot of who I was. Like when we got here, we got to start fresh.
Mm-hmm.
My parents, they did the best they could to like raise us. It's three of us. So, and to help my parents, I actually started working super young. So I've been working since I'm 15 years old. My first job, it was almost full time. It was like 35 hours. And then I went to
Wow.
school full time. I finished high school, then move on to like other jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to help support my family.
Mm.
We were also undocumented, so that was also part of the huge culture shock. Fortunate enough to not have crossed the border, you know, via land. We did come via plane, but
Okay.
I feel like once we get here, it's still the same. You still have to adjust and like do your best to survive for sure.
Mm. Yeah. There's a couple of things that I think came to mind. The first one is, you know, typically, or at least the stories that I've ran into, it's usually due to poverty and the lack of opportunity. It sounds like you guys came from a different place when you decided to come here. Do you feel comfortable sharing maybe why you guys made the move out to this country, or do you know why it was done?
Absolutely. Yeah. Politically, Bolivia wasn't great. um, Things were
Mm,
going down differently. My mom started to fear like for us in the future because Bolivia is like a country that can really be swayed either democratically or communistly.
I see.
There's like a lot of resistance from indigenous groups and also from the political side. So it started to get really bad. I think the one of the crossing points that they probably like decided, it was like they got an invitation from my stepdad's parents. They were here. They were having like a 50 wedding anniversary. And they were like, well, we could probably use this opportunity to like maybe go check it out, see how it's like. But I feel like things got progressively worse in the country,
Mm,
that it was really bad. The day we left, we had to say goodbye to our relatives like a mile away from the airport because everything was blocked off. And
wow.
the plane that we came in, um, coincidentally, it was the plane where the former president was escaping. We came to the US, but he was escaping not to be murdered. And this is President Gonzalo Sanchez de Lozada. So this was about 17 years ago. It got really bad. So
Wow.
I think that also sort of scared my parents, like,
Yeah.
whoa.
Yeah, you guys ran away at the same time as the president. Wow.
Yeah, for different reasons, right?
Of
Like I
course.
think think my parents had heard how bad it was, and like we definitely saw certain things go down, but I feel like the time that we were leaving and we had to go through that, like it was real for
Mm-hmm.
them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think that's why they decided to stay, honestly. Like after the family party and they saw the opportunity, so they decided to stay.
Mm. I'm wondering for you, since you were 13, so there was like this rooted, there were roots in your home country, that were long established, and you perhaps were already able to perceive that things were changing in your home country. So, did you, from your perspective, see it as a blessing, or was it also just something that you wish wouldn't have happened? Like, what was your experience of the move?
Well, um, I'm an oldest daughter,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
there were two little ones that we came with. Um, as an adult, I feel like I see it way differently than I saw it as a teenager. I feel like as a teenager, I was a teenager, right? So I was confused about a lot of different reasons. And
Yeah.
I was also learning a new language. I feel like I assimilated pretty fast.
Hmm.
I was the first one in my family to actually learn English. Like I'm a fast learner for a lot of things. So language was super fast for me. So I was able to help my parents, transition, read, like the first daughter first.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you
The
always helping
eldest.
your parents. They're filling out that paperwork.
Mm-hmm. You're like 7. Talk to them. Well, you were 13, but I was 8,
Yeah, I was
like
on the
talk to the
phone. Yeah.
cable man or the, yeah, yeah, of course.
Yeah, and like, helping out with my siblings. So I feel like that experience um made me grow up super fast,
Mm,
because
yeah.
I had to help them. I felt like it was, my duty to like help out more.
Yeah.
Um, I saw my parents go through, maybe three jobs at one time, each of them. So we
Yeah.
barely saw each other for, I think for the first few years, like 3, 4 years, it was just like they were working and I was in the household with the kids. So I helped a lot with, their schooling, picking them up, dropping them off, their food. So I feel like
Mm.
that experience just like made me grow up super fast.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like you became a caretaker as well as, trying to assimilate and all of the things. So, as you know, this podcast is on healing and awakening. And I would like to know for you what resonates more, like what sounds more like what you're going through or went through. And maybe if we can weave in like how that impacted your healing or awakening journey.
So I feel that having assimilated super fast and like feeling like I grew up super fast, it didn't hit me right away. Now I'm in my 30s and I'm also in a different place, right? Like I'm married. I also married at 19. So like that
Wow.
growing up fast sort of like came together there. And I
Yeah.
was lucky enough that it worked out with my husband, right? Like
Yeah.
we're still together
Hmm.
almost 13 years. So
Wow. Yeah.
that now that I'm in my 30s, um I get to see where a lot of things went went right and where a lot of things went wrong. And I feel like once I hit 30, a lot of those experiences sort of like hit me.
Mm.
And even with my loved ones, right? Like with my husband, like he's also an immigrant, like but he came when he was like 2 years old. He's also from a different country. So I felt like even though we're both first sibling, our experiences were like totally different.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And like having to, just assimilate everything that happened and be able to look back at my world, like being undocumented for a really long time.
Yeah.
Um, Also, when I was undocumented, I had to go through school as an undocumented student because, like college, because there wasn't DACA when I started my college journey.
Okay.
So DACA came when my I was already in the middle of like my paperwork. with my husband and like so I think the first 3 years that I went to college, I went part-time because that's what I could afford.
Mm,
Like
yeah.
especially here, you had to pay out of state, and there was no help really.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's just like a glimpse.
For those that are listening that maybe did not have the experience of being undocumented, the experience of going to college is you're paying a different rate, it sounds like, right? And I think you just mentioned out of state, which is it out of state rates that you're
Yeah,
having
out
to
of state
pay?
rates.
Okay, out of pocket. No
See,
financial aid, nothing like that.
yeah, so there was no financial aid. There were very few scholarships that you could get, and I applied for them, but even then they were like probably 500, $1,000, which I was really thankful
Mm,
for.
yeah,
But I remember like the classes racking up to be like $3,000 each. So
yeah,
yeah, I think it was like all of that, experience and then like my childhood. So now that I'm in my 30s, I feel like I'm in a better place. I can look back in it and I was like, wow, holy shit, like this is um this is something that like I have to work through as a person who's like trying to heal. Like I feel like a lot of the times I felt very frustrated, because there was
mm,
no resolution like with my undocumented journey. Like there was not a lot that we could do. Like I mentioned, there wasn't DACA.
yeah,
Um, it was very hard because we also had that conversation with my parents. Well, Gabby, if something happens to us, there's a raid at our job or something.
yeah,
Um, Baby girl, like you're gonna have to grab these kids and you're gonna have to go to the embassy or the consulate. Maybe call up your aunt, see if they might, you can come with them. But I feel like those conversations are like sort of tough. And I reflect back and I'm just like,
yeah,
wow,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm getting teary eyed too because I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine. Like, yeah, I was born here, so I don't share that experience. I was raised around a lot of people or a lot of family members that were undocumented. When people came and across the border, they would end up in our house. But it's such a privilege, to not have to fear that, like, my parents could be gone the next day and that I'd have to take that on. So just wanting to honor your experience, and also just recognizing like the strength that it had to take and the reason that perhaps it's taken this long to be able to take that pause and finally recognize, okay, where do I fit in this picture and how do I get to heal around this whole story? I'm recognizing like there's for some people that doesn't come until much later in life because they can't, because their story's not over yet, because they haven't hit safe zone, right? So
yeah.
I'm wondering if that took it was a part of your story of like maybe when you got your you went from undocumented to having paper. Do you think that that's when you were able to start looking inward, when you started to feel safe in this country, or what was that transition that made it okay for you to get on this journey for yourself?
Mm. So I think that was one part of it. I think I was still dealing with like whatever trauma came behind with that. So I think it wasn't up until I finished my bachelor's that I was like, holy shit, I really need to focus on myself, like my mindset, like certain things are, I don't like this. I don't like this for myself. Like this is not who I want to be.
Hmm.
And that came like it definitely came after because schooling takes a lot also and just having to live through trauma and also because I got papers told me that like my life, yeah,
Hmm.
it progressively got better, but also then I'm like, um, yeah, I need to ponerme las pilas and make this money so I can put in
Hmm.
papers for my mom because parents are like such a big part. Um, yeah, so I felt that I had to, just because I got my paperwork. Then I'm like, okay, so what's the next thing to get my family right?
Yeah.
So eventually we were able to go through it, you know. It was like a family effort. I can say that, like, I can't sit here and be like, oh yeah, I pay for everyone and everything, you know, because I was also a student. So
Mm-hmm.
you know, it was like a family effort to just let's get the family right, you know, let's get mom and dad. And then it trickled down to my siblings. But by the time my siblings went to school, DACA was in place, which we were so thankful for because it really, you know, it helped out. Me having had to go through higher education without it.
Yeah.
And, you know, for my siblings to have that opportunity was just like life changing for us. After like my mom got her paperwork and my stepdad got the paperwork, like it was a big weight lifted off my shoulders, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I started to look at things differently. After I graduated, like we stayed a few years around the area and then I moved away. Now I live about an hour away where I used to live and I grew up. Like so since I was 13 till I was like, you know, almost 30, like I lived in that
Mm-hmm.
area which was like very city, very metropolitan. And now where I'm at is like I'm by myself. We bought a house with my husband. Um, so we're like away from all of that.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's when actually it clicked in my brain, like I'm safe, you know, I'm
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Yeah.
Like I can heal, like I can process it, like I can process, and I'm still processing. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
say that it's all healed, but definitely like I can process it, like being angry, the frustration. I can process that. Oh, you know, maybe I was mad at my parents for putting me in that situation, you know.
Mm.
But now I'm like, yeah, maybe I was in that situation, but also it couldn't have been easy for them. You know, tell your
Yeah.
oldest kid like, hey, you know, you might not know we're here one day, but you know, you got two little ones, please take care of my little ones. Like it couldn't have been easy for them to say that. And also like being away from it, I think that also helps so much.
Mm.
I feel
The
like I'm a different
space.
person. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I was able to not only focus on you know on myself but also like my marriage, um my business, you know, like I
Mm-hmm.
always had I have been freelancing. um at the beginning it was like out of like curiosity, like necessity, and I have been freelancing while in school, so
Okay.
as the design. So I freelanced since I was, you know, since I learned the software, like I freelance, I done so many things. So I
Mm-hmm.
freelanced for like about almost 10 years. And, you know, once I felt like that safety, I'm like, yeah, I want my business. This is what I want, you know, regardless of job I have, you know, my full-time job. I am a designer, you know, or I work for a university, but, you know, now I can like focus on my business, like my vision, what I want. Like I
Mm.
have that sort of like weight off,
Yeah.
you know?
That's beautiful. I'm so happy to hear one that you were able to purchase a home and that you get to enjoy that for yourself, you know, and in an area that maybe gives you that physical space from that sometimes is really needed. I'm wondering for you, it seems like it was maybe like a lot, like although you were releasing and also accomplishing many things, what did your support system look like or what got you through this period of time where you're now processing and healing? What does that actually mean to you? Are you going to therapy? Or are you journaling? Are you speaking with your family more about it? What does that look like in your world?
So I was in therapy. I'm no longer in therapy. I am thinking of retaking it now that I feel like I'm in a different space. But that last semester, that last 2 semesters in the semester after graduation, I was in therapy because
Mm,
I mean I'm crying now, but I was on that job. Like
mm,
everything just came down to just it was, you know, it even affected my marriage. Like it was like tipping point, like I hit like that rock bottom.
I see.
So I think therapy helps so much because it helped me put things in perspective. Um, Also like letting go of guilt. I think I had like a lot of guilt because I couldn't help more,
Mm,
but that also let me realize like, well, it's it wasn't my job to begin with to do a lot of the things that I had to do, you know?
yeah.
So I think therapy like really helped me out in the time that I needed it the most because um yeah, it was a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And also
Mm-hmm.
going through higher ed, like I went so DC is it's pretty multicultural, but the school I went to is predominantly white.
Okay.
So also that experience was like, oh my God, like I'm grateful that I found like, a few friends that I'm still friends with,
Yeah.
that we sort of went through it together. I
It's
was an older
tough.
student, so I was an older student. So
Mm,
like the way I engage with the students and I engage with the groups and the class was different.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Entering those predominantly white spaces, I think, can be really tough, right? I mean, I know we likely had different experiences of it, but I definitely relate in that because when I landed my dream job that I talk about in the intro of the podcast, that's what I was entering. I was working in California in the Orange County, Irvine area, and I was working with business owners, and it's like a constant internal battle. Should I be saying more? Should I be defending? Should I be trying to convince? Like when you hear, I don't know, for me, when I was hearing like the racist comments, I was working with a lot of business owners. So they had employees who were people of color, right? And they would make
mm,
comments that were not, for me, did not sit well. And so it was this constant inner battle of, am I doing enough? Should I be saying more? At the same time, it's like, this is the job that I've always dreamed of. This is what I've always gone for. Like you're constantly in this fear, flight, fight, like, a little bit of a mental storm going on. Was it similar for you, or what did what did it feel like for you to enter a predominantly white space?
wow, I feel that. Yeah, it was sort of similar. I think for me, imposter syndrome,
Yeah.
yeah, I hit so much of that. Um, and I graduated from the school and it worked out in the way that I actually ended up working there. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I think that I got to see a whole different side of the school.
Yeah.
Because as a student, like I sort of felt a certain way, and I had a lot of imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
But I found a few friends, I relied on. But once I started working there, I feel like things took a like turn for me because I didn't know how to navigate the culture,
Mm-hmm.
like, of staff at a predominantly white institution. I think my the whole first year, I couldn't really, I was still confused at the meetings. Like, I didn't know if it was the right time to speak up or like, I heard some people say certain things. There were also meetings where people wouldn't say anything. So I was like, should I be saying something? Like, I'm, I was like, well, pretty confused. Um,
Yeah.
I also felt rubbed off the wrong way and I couldn't pinpoint like, what,
Mm.
this doesn't feel right. Like, well, what is it?
Mm-hmm.
And I started doing some training, like DEI training, which is diversity and inclusion training. And that actually made me super angry because then I realized all of that was feelings like, that's a microaggression. Like, what the heck?
Yeah.
You shouldn't have said that to me.
Like you said, you're not able to pinpoint it because I think we don't have an idea of how truly different everyone's experience can be. Kind of like how you were explaining, you were kind of moving so fast through life. What's next? What do I have to do next? How do I succeed next? That you don't have time and space to realize you're actually doing so much. You're actually holding so much that other people sometimes don't have to hold, that other people sometimes don't even have to worry about. And then we find ourselves in the same spot as them. And then now we're like, kind of like mingling in between them. And that's when it can get funky.
Yeah, it can. And those experiences like throughout my work journey, like I definitely feel like, you're in a very white space. You don't know. It took me so much to get here.
Yeah.
And now I feel like I don't belong. Like, what the heck? So
Yeah.
like navigating through that. I
Yeah.
feel that now that I've done the work, like with the therapy and also I do meditation. Like meditation has been like big for me.
Mm.
Like I'm in the headspace where I'm just like, my feelings are super valid and I feel safe enough to be like, if you're crossing a line, you're crossing a line. I'm gonna point it out. Like that's not right. Like don't tell me that.
Yeah.
Um, but it took a lot. It took a few years. I was like, um, thinking back at that my first experience like of a microaggression. I was like, it was that I realized that that's what it was. I'm like, no, that's not okay.
Yeah. To be honest, I like there's something that's always on my mind when I post content or even through here. It's the like my understanding that I also, even though I'm first gen, right, I don't encompass and can never encompass all of what it means to be first gen because
Yeah,
of the diversity of experiences. And even though for me, I'm like focusing on this experience and wanting to create content around it and trying to find the connection threads through it all, there's always going to be a different experience of it, right? And a different way. I can say it one way, it's interpreted another. And so microaggressions, can happen within our own community. And that's something that I'm so hyper aware of, but I don't also know how to I don't know. It's just always on my mind. I never want to offend anyone. I don't want to like disregard anyone's experience. And at the same time, I feel like it's likely that I will based on how everyone has such different experiences, you know?
yeah. And I love that you're like so aware and so like kind. I think that's the first step, just like being kind with others. Um, just even if our experiences are not the same, even though I feel like I dealt with so much, I also met people who dealt with a lot worse. So I'm like,
Mm,
sometimes I also feel that. But one thing that I learned with therapy is that, it's not a competition, right? Like it's not a struggle competition.
yeah.
And I think once I look at things um through through that lens, I'm like, well, my struggle is also valid,
Mm,
even if it's not as bad as you. Um,
yeah.
and that's also helping with my family dynamics. Because like I mentioned, I felt angry at my parents for a long time. And not just at the fact that, that situation I mentioned, but our relationship wasn't, it sort of like deteriorated over the years because my stepdad, it's not my father, and like there was that dynamic as well. Like he made sure to let me know that I was not his daughter like
Mm,
for a while. So I
okay.
felt like I that also um fueled my anger, and like, I was going through life like I don't know, like a angry person.
Mm,
But like now looking through things through that lens, that even helps my mom. Like even when my mom calls me and she's like, and I'm like, damn, mom, I'm having a really tough day. I'm just telling you, opening up. And then she's like, oh, but you don't know what my day has been. And I'm like, I listen to her and I'm just like, okay, I'm sorry, mom. But just so you know, it's not a struggle competition. You know,
mm.
yeah,
I love that you're saying this because it took you validating your experience. And like you said, it's not just, oh, I validated there, right? But it took you validating your experience enough to recognize I do have the right to say that there are things I need to work on, right?
But as you get older, you sort of realize certain things. And I'm just like, damn, mom, like you really went through this. Um, but because you went through this, also doesn't mean that you get to on like what I'm going through. I also told her this. I was like, you saying these things, it drives me away from you. I think it got to a point with my mom that it's also like my personality now that it's just like if she's at her most dramatic, I'm just like instead of being like, I know, no, I'm like, yep, mom, if that's what you think. I think when I started doing that, then she's like, oh, I guess it's let's move on, right? And because I
Yeah.
love her, like she knows that. She knows I do anything for my mom. Like,
Yeah.
um, but I was also thankful that my parents, when I went through the therapy, I was thankful that my parents were not like super against it because they saw like where I was. Like I
Mm.
was an angry person. I remember my stepdad taking me somewhere because it had also like affected my marriage. So I had to live with them for like a certain period of time while we figured things out with my husband.
Mm.
And the person that they saw leave a few years back, right? It's not the person that came back. I
Yeah.
was 19 when I left. And then I was like 26, 27 when I came back. So it was like a whole different person. And then my stepdad would be like, why is she so angry?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
But I was just like at that point where I was like, I need help. And then I told him like I'm in therapy. And I'm not ashamed to say like I also did some medication like for like we did like a 6 month trial that really helped me stabilize. I think that helped me stabilize through that period. And then I got off of it. But I love that they saw how bad it was and they weren't like against it, like, oh, para qué, because I feel
Yeah.
like if they would have been like that, that would have been like even worse.
Yeah.
I think they really saw like, damn, this really went down the drain. Like,
Mm. Yeah.
my kids like not there. So they were supportive at that
That-
time,
yeah.
that I needed them. So
Mm, that's good. I'm so glad that you had that support because it's true. Sometimes, unfortunately, I see it that people are trying to get help. And then on top of it, like it takes a lot to even say, I need help. And then for the people that are supposed to be your support system to like look down on you for it or make you feel even more shame, then it's the last thing you need, when you're on that rock bottom moment. Um, I'm an internalizer, I've learned, which means that I suffer alone. Like I like to do that alone. And I didn't show anyone my rock bottom, but I think when I speak about like advocating for yourself, it comes from that place because I did not receive necessarily pushback, but I did get those comments of like, why you didn't go through much, like what are you so stressed about? And it's like so much deeper than stress.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But with you, I feel like it's helping you like with your mission. You're now you
Hmm.
have this podcast is growing, like your business, like
Yeah.
that it did take, for you to go to therapy to be at a place that you're helping others. Like
Mm.
that's amazing. And when I was redoing my business, like I was reworking it from just a freelancer to a studio, like that's one thing that I looked at for sure. That who do I want to work with, first of all? Like,
Yeah.
I've been working with whoever has been calling me, like, you do trucking? Yeah, sure. I'll do some graphics.
Yeah.
Um, oh, you do this, you do that, like you do cakes. Okay, well, cake and trucking had nothing to do with it, but like I'll work with you.
Yeah.
But after doing all that, work in that safety, in that space, then I was able to be like, well, no, like I love my business, but I don't know, if I'm doing my best with the people I'm working with because it feels like sort of transactional.
Mm.
Like, so when I redid the structure of my business, I'm like, hey, I want to work. This is the type of people I want to work with. And then I figure out that, I want to work with women I want to work with coaches or service providers that, help other people. And that has been sort of like the driver for me, like with my business. Like once that click, I was like, damn, yes,
Yeah,
you know, in
I
in
love
the
that.
people that I'm working with, like it's different. It's like you have
Mm-hmm.
a mission and I'm all for it because I'm in that mission with you. Like I want to help you get there. I know I've been through a lot as a person, but professionally, like I think being that older sibling, that responsible person, I achieved a lot. And I'm proud of myself on it. I have achieved a lot. I've been in spaces where not a lot of people have been. I done trainings that not a lot of people have the access to do. Like,
Mm,
and that if I can get that and bring it to my community, that like fires me up so much.
yeah. Oh, so beautiful. I love it. I love it because I see that. Yeah. I mean, the the spark in you or the spark in me recognizes the spark in you, and it has been so awesome to connect and hear your story, and thank you so much for sharing it because I think that a lot of people may find themselves in the right before part or in the rock bottom part or in the after part, and it can feel messy, and it sometimes can
Yeah,
feel really confusing or lonely, and that is why we're here. That is why we're sharing, so that those people don't feel alone, and so that they also check out some of the resources maybe that you use. So that's the next part of the podcast, is talking about maybe some of the habits or the books or the influencers that you found really helpful during your journey. So,
yeah, for sure.
before we move into it though, I would love for you to let people know once more where they can follow you if they want to check out your work. I would love for them to do that. And you can, also tell us about anything that you have going on now before we move into the resources.
For sure. So you can follow me on social. I am everywhere, mostly on TikTok and Instagram. So if you love TikTok, you're welcome to follow me. I am always hanging out there. Also in Instagram, not as much as posting, but in the stories. I love to connect with my community, like ask questions. Um,
And what is
so
your
my
handles?
handle is
Yeah.
Teran Media Design. Teran is my last name, so it's Teran Media Design, and that's the handle for everywhere. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and my if you want to connect with me via email, it's simple. It's Gabriela at teranmediadesign.com.
Okay, beautiful. And if you want to just tell us a little bit about what you do, and we know now what your mission is and who you're serving, but maybe a little bit more about what you have going on or your offerings, whatever you'd like.
Sure. So I do brand and web design. So with branding, I'm a specialist. I help businesses that are in their 3 to 5 year mark, like they're ready to grow. We survey all of the branding materials. We rebrand them with strategy. So we have a strategy session to do market segmentations. Like, okay, who do we want to sell
Mm-hmm.
to? What do we want? What is our revenue, like who we are, like what is our tone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who, when we present ourselves, like let's say later on, before we even work in the graphics or the logo, all of the nice things, right? Like the colors that come with branding, we
Yeah.
definitely focus on strategy first. And this is where I really get to use all of that I have learned and I have taken from all those spaces that I've been in, through marketing, design, multimedia, like all of those experiences. I really get to hone in strategically and help business owners like, okay, so this is the plan, this is our strategy, and then we're gonna bring it to the visuals, right? Like how is this gonna look? Um,
Mm-hmm.
how are these visuals going to attract the customer that you're trying to work with?
Yeah.
Because once you get to that 3 to 5 year mark, it's like, is that really point where you realize as a business owner, you're like, oh, or maybe even before, some people realize it before, but like when you're first starting, it's a different set of needs than when you're trying to grow.
Yeah.
So I specialize in helping those people. And then we move on to a website, like how is your website going to look? What's the strategy here? What are we trying to do, Are we
Mm-hmm.
trying to book? Are we trying to connect? Are we trying to sell, or are we trying to make it a community? Like what's the resource? Are we trying to teach something? Like are discourses behind it?
Yeah.
So that is, in a nutshell, what I do. I have brand design and web design as a package. I also have them separately. And, if somebody wants help with something, I'm always open to it. So,
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think that strategy is such an important part of it all. I know for me when I first started, I was like, colors, let me look at colors and textures, and fonts, but there's so much behind it all. And it's so beautiful um, that you recognize that. Obviously, it's your area of expertise, so you know better, and that you include it in your packages, and that's kind of even, I would say, the focus before the fun parts, like you said. With that being said, can you share with us maybe one of your favorite healing or mindful tools that you use? You mentioned meditation, so would it be that one, or is there another one that's like your favorite go to?
yeah. Well, for meditation, I'm a believer. I believe in Jesus Christ. So I found a few podcasts that are all about meditation. So I do have my favorites. One is more Christian oriented, and then the other one is more like breath work.
Okay.
So, and these are podcasts that I've been doing for years. So, like, I would
Wow.
say they've been part of really my healing journey.
Yeah.
The first one is called Christian Meditation Podcast by Chaplain Jared.
Okay.
And this has been like my number one sort of go to. In the way he meditates is that it's guided meditation, but he also has episodes that once you're comfortable with the guided meditation, you can do your own.
Mm.
And in between the meditation, you get to listen to Bible verses and like Bible stories. So you really get to connect with the story. You get to connect with the Word of God. So that's been a big one for me. I think I started it in 2015,
Wow.
and I'm still going at it. So, and I am so thankful that he's still doing it, right?
Yeah, for so long. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Before he was, when he started, he was a chaplain at a hospice. So
Mm.
he really like got to see that side of life, right?
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
would um he would take that into the podcast, and like he has like a very calming, soothing voice. Another one is Josie Ong's meditation podcast, and it's called Affirmation Pod.
Mm.
And this one I also been doing sooner since I discovered meditation, which was, I want to say, 2013. So this was the
Okay.
very first one I ever did.
Wow.
Well,
Okay.
Affirmation Pod, and she's everywhere. What I love about this podcast is that it's short. So if you have 12, 10 minutes, this is your
After
podcast.
you listen to this one, I'm just kidding.
Of course, yeah, after you listen to this one.
What is a habit that you do for yourself every day?
I think what I do for myself mostly is like I put attention in my hair, but not in the way that like I do it or like blow dry it every day.
Mm-hmm.
I always make sure that it's like clean. I make sure that my hair is like it's clean, it's nice. I make sure that it's like soft through it. I try not to add heat or like
Mm.
anything too crazy. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I do have oil that I put on it, and like that, just when I'm going through it, like it makes me feel good.
Mm. Yeah.
Another thing that I do that I realize is that even my husband's know, like my sleep is very important. So
Mm.
he knows to respect it. So for example, if one day I am also not a morning person. So you sort of gotta gradually take me through the day, right? So
Yeah.
before 9:30 a.m., it has to be like minimal quiet unless you're making coffee. Like And that I love that about my husband. So he respects that boundary. He knows that like my sleep is super important, like in the morning. So I make sure to like let him know, like, okay, hey, that was too loud, or like that was sort of rude, you know. So like I make sure that I have boundaries with my sleep.
Yeah.
Um, because I'm a night owl, it's sort of hard because you know that's like spark. But
Yeah.
definitely in the morning, like that's like sacred to me.
Sacred
Like
time. I love that. Oh my gosh. We're similar. I'm the same. I clash with my mom when she stays because she'll stay like a month at a time. And she's like
mm.
at six, no, not six, but like 8, 7 in the morning. That's everybody's washing all the dishes. And I'm like, Ma, please. I need
Yeah,
to
I mean,
sleep.
as adults, like it's different, right? Like
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Like with my mom, when I had gone to her house and like stayed, she hasn't stayed in my house because we're sort of like very close.
Mm,
Also, she works very, very late still, so
mm,
in sometimes weekends. So it's sort of like hard to like have her come and just stay. But she comes and stays the day.
yeah.
Um, but definitely when I stayed over there, yeah, it's been like I appreciate you making breakfast, but you know,
I'd rather not eat. Let me sleep.
just like I feel like estoy cruda, like in la mañana, like that's
Yeah.
how it feels. Like
Yeah.
I don't function the same.
Hmm.
Even when I have meetings like really early, like that's one boundary I've done in my business that our meetings are in the afternoon. Like after 12, you get me, I'm sharp. I can focus on you. I can help you. Like you get my best. If you're trying to schedule a meeting in the morning, I will be there. I'll come, I'll accommodate, but it's very seldom that I will take it on because
Yeah.
it's just not happening. Like it's
Yeah.
not me. So like setting that boundary with myself, like I know me and I respect me, I love me enough to just like salir de mi cara like toda cruda,
Yeah.
you know?
That's awesome. I did the same. My cutoff is 11:30, so anything before no se puede.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
important. Like it's super important because I feel like it helps me function and it also makes me feel like, yeah, I'm respecting myself, to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. What is a favorite song that leaves you feeling happy or inspired that you just like to listen to?
I am a very random listener. I'm gonna say I am also a very French enthusiast. I'm gonna say I
Mm.
speak some French, but you gotta put me in a situation where no one else speaks French and then it'll
Okay.
come out. Because
Ooh.
otherwise I will do my best to like just yeah, I'm a little self-conscious of my accent, so I don't speak it as much. But if I have to, then I will. That overachiever child, like, okay, maybe another language, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so I do like it's called on Spotify, it's called French Martini. So it's like a station where it has I honestly think it's a group that remakes songs, but it's like in French and also like other languages. Or it's probably like a mix of groups. But I know it's called French Martini. So that's what I
Okay.
play while I'm working. Like it's sort of soothing because they're remakes, but they're made in like a slow, calming sense. So
Mm.
I do like listening to that. I'm
Okay.
not sure if one song in particular. I feel like I go through songs like like, okay, this day, like this is the best song.
Yeah.
And then the next day it's like, I'm over it. So,
So
but
for all of
definitely.
our French listeners, there's a there's a recommendation there.
No, right now I'm into this song. I don't even know what it's called because I have it just like on the background, but it's just like zooby zooby zoo, zooby zooby zoo.
Mm,
So everywhere I go, I've been singing the tune and like it's so catchy. Like at the end of the day, I see
yeah.
my coworker or like, my husband is like zooby zooby zoo.
I've heard it in, I think it's the serie La Casa de Papel. Have you watched it?
It might be because it's like an older
Yeah.
song.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think in one of the scenes. But anyways, okay. So what is
Yeah. So right now that's my song. So if
that's your
that
song?
I guess
Zooby
that
Zooby
answers
Zoo.
your question. Zooby, zooby.
Sounds good. All right. What is a favorite quote or advice that you refer back to?
I feel like I always find good quotes everywhere, but the ones that stick with me are like the ones that mi abuelita used to say. The one that it's resonated with me more now. It's like agarras más miel con dulce o agarras más moscas con miel que con hiel. And
Mm-hmm.
that's sort of like related to that you can catch, better things with honey, like being sweet and being
Yeah.
kind that would like anger. That one is like sticks with me. Um, yeah, mi abuelita used to say so many things that resonates, but that's been the one that I've been like, it's true, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Yeah. An influencer that you follow that you feel positively inspired by.
Hmm. I think there's a few. And this year I got to, I guess, meet my heroes, right?
Ooh, uh-huh.
Yeah, and it has worked out that way. But I will say first you. I
Yeah.
love seeing your journey. Like I think we just found each other on TikTok, and I was just like, yes, I love her content. I also loved your voice. It's like even with your messaging was like so soothing. So me being here
Mm.
is like, you know,
Aw, thank you.
um,
I've been waiting for the day that someone says me, you're making my dream come true.
well, here you go, girl. You have a
Yay.
fan. Yeah. I also got to meet Mari from Latinx marketing.
Ooh.
So she's been a big influence. Her and Jefas Juntas were in a group. So I found Mari, and then I also found Reina from Quiero Prince. So if you're on TikTok and you're into like the Latino space, then you've probably seen Reina's work. Like she's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to connect with them actually last week. I flew to LA for the first time. And I
Wow.
was like, hey, I'm gonna be in LA. Like, do you guys wanna go have dinner or something? And I was like, they say yes, and like we planned this whole thing. I also got to meet another designer. Her handle is Palma and Palma. So she's also an amazing designer. And I have met her through a coaching program that we did together. Lisa,
Mm.
Lisa. And Lisa, if you're seeing this, I love you, girl. Yeah. So we got to get together and we had dinner. We went to a Korean spot in LA. It
Ooh.
was in Korean
Yum.
town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think they've been the ones that like and there also been other friends that I made online that I've been like, wow, I love your journey. I love this. Especially in the DC area because I don't think there's a lot of Latino influencers, designers that like I have connected with or that they're even. So
Yeah.
it makes sense, I guess, that they are all in LA because LA is, I guess, more multicultural, right?
Yes. Oh,
But
yeah. There's
I
so
think
many of
like
us out there. I mean, I'm from California right now. I'm in Tennessee, but I think that's what's magical about the internet, that we're all getting to connect. Me too. I feel the same way. I'm like meeting some of the girls that I've been following, and I actually found a couple guys too that are going to be on, and I'm like, yes, come on, Latinos, we need to heal too, because there's a lot of, I think, girls or women doing their thing, but I'm excited for all of us to do our thing and stand out, and yeah, so awesome. What is a feel good or powerful book or movie that you've read or watched?
so a book that really helped me through my rough time is through Lisa Nichols. She's a motivational speaker. And I think she's done more than one book. So the book is called Abundance Now by Lisa Nichols. That book like took me to I think it took me through it. It came right on time. Another book that it's very important that um I feel like it took me a while to finish just because of how good it was and how triggering but also healing it was. It's called Forgiveness Now. Oh, actually, it's called The Book of Forgiving by Desmond Tutu.
Okay.
And
Ooh.
I think are two books that I will recommend to anyone that is looking to heal, that is looking to grow, and that is ready to let go. Especially the second book, the Book of Forgiving. That book
Mm-hmm.
really like cut me open. I'll say,
Wow. Okay.
it cut me, but it also helped me rebuild.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are the good ones. Wow. Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing the things that have helped you. I mean, I know there's probably a lot more, but I always like to leave the listeners with some resources, some things they can check out. And this last section is just a couple of fun questions. They're kind of fast.
Sure.
So, no thinking, okay? This is all intuition. Salsa verde o roja? Oh, do you
Verde.
eat salsa? Okay, okay. Horchata or Jamaica?
Horchata.
Reggaeton or hip hop?
Reggaeton.
Concha de vainilla or chocolate?
Chocolate.
And if we're pulling up to a taco place, what is your taco order?
Oh, damn. This is the best question. My taco order is uno de lengua, uno al pastor, y uno carne asada. That's my taco order.
¿Con todo o la pura carne?
Con todo.
Con todo. Con limón
Con limón, con
y una
pepino,
horchata.
rábano. Well, I don't do tacos with horchata because of del
Mm.
pastor is pork. So I don't really do pork and milk, but I do like tamarindo. So like
Mm.
I have my tacos with tamarindo for sure.
Yeah, maybe I'll add that to the options.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you oops. Thank you so much for your time and for being on here, for sharing. It was lovely to meet you virtually, and I hope that everyone goes checks out your work. It is beautiful. And is there anything that you'd like to say before we close out the episode?
Um, I think one thing I would like to say for your listeners, especially if you're in the undocumented journey, and that it might be like a rough patch, I will say, don't give up. It's hard, but it does get better, you know. And if I could be like even taking out my professional accomplishments, if I could be like an inspiration for somebody that has gone through it, you know. I know there's rough times, like not just financially insecurity, but also like housing insecurity that you go through as an undocumented person. Um, I would say like keep at it, don't give up. Latinos are I think, one of the most resilient groups that there are in the US. Just hold on to that. Hold on to that. Hold on to your dream. Like if you come here with a dream, like hold on to it. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to try to knock it. There's going to be even people that look like you, but like
Mm.
hold on to it. Hold on to what you hold dear, like your family, your dreams. If there is, I don't know, if there's even things that you hold dear, like hold on to it, right? I had I had this bag that I came in with that I still have. And then I look at my
Wow.
bag and like it's nothing, you know, it's nothing special, but it's like it was special to me. So
Yeah.
like I look at the bag and then I remember it's like no, like the days that I'm looking to I feel like rough days, right? Like I and I'm like, oh, the days that I'm confused, like do I belong here? Like I look at that bag and I'm like, fuck yeah, I belong here. Like because I went through all of this. So if you are going
Yes.
through an undocumented journey, stick through it. Definitely look at the resources. Um, yeah, don't give up.
Mm. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much. And to the listeners as well, cuídense mucho. And I hope you guys have a good day. Make sure you share this with your amigas, amigos, amigas. And remember, First Gen, I love you, I love me, and I can't wait for you to love yourself. Bye.